we continue to take a look back at all the previous decades with the Montreal Canadiens, and we try to figure out who the best players are from each era. Which players do you have in a starting lineup from the 1980s? A pretty decent time for the Montreal Canadiens, if I recall correctly, which of course I wouldn't be able to recall because I wasn't alive.
I mean, I was only alive for the last bit of the 80s, so not much personal experience there, but I think it's very easy to pick a goaltender. It's Patrick Waugh, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty easy on that side. I think Larry Robinson was still fantastic in the 80s. Guy Lafleur at the end, maybe not as much. I would say Mats Naslund would be in my starting lineup. It's tough. I actually don't know who I'd pick. A lot of the guys that are legends on the Canadiens retired right at the beginning of the 80s, right? So the end of the 70s into the 80s. It's a tough one. I need some help here. Anybody want to jump in for me?
Well, I graduated high school in 1980, and in my 5 years in high school, the Canadiens won 4 Stanley Cups. So it was an annual event where you skipped school and you went to the Stanley Cup parade. And I think I might have told this story before. One year I asked one of my buddies if he was going to the parade, and he said, "No, I'm busy, so I'll go next year." And he did. He went next year instead. So that's the way it was when I was growing up. So I remember these guys very well. Patrick Waugh, obviously the goalie, but Steve Penny, I remember watching that playoff run that he was just remarkable. And the fans at the Forum chanting, "Penny, Penny.
Penny's from heaven."
He was a flash in the pan, but man, that was a fun playoff run with him in goal. On defense, Larry Robinson and Rick, you just missed the cut. I took Chris Chelios ahead of you. You're on my second defense pairing.
I don't blame you.
You're on my second defense pairing, though. And then the line, the number one line is Bobby Smith between Mats Naslund and Stéphane Richer. Imagine if the Habs had that line now. And then the second line would be like Carbonneau, Gainey, and Nyland. Throw that line back there. There's 2 Hall of Famers and a Hall of Fame personality. You know, it's you look back at those teams and just not Chris is my buddy. You need some enforcers out there, right? And that line played together for so long, so you don't want to break up.
That name sounds so familiar.
Yeah, there was so many good players in that era, and you know that was 1980 was sort of the end of the sort of dynasty years, but then they came back and they won another cup in 86 with our friend Rick was part of that. So it was a fun time. As I said, I mean, I feel sorry for the kids today. I mean, as I said, I was so spoiled. 4 Stanley Cups during my 5 years when I was in high school, and then another one in 86. I remember being at the Stanley Cup parade in 86. I'm sure Rick, obviously, it was about 1,000 degrees on St. Catherine Street. And but that's the memories of it. I mean, you could make a pretty good team out of those guys from 1980s.
Rick, what's your team?
Well, thanks for bringing up the point that some of you guys were not even alive back when I was still playing. So that one kind of touches a nerve. But anyways, the reality was, or you know, at that time, I mean, I have to give that run or my experience coming in with some unbelievable players that made my job as a defenseman so much easier to play with guys that were smart enough to realize when you're under pressure and you needed an out, you had to go to an area where they could give you an out where you could make a good first pass. And I got to give Stevie shot in on my left winger with Bobby Smith and even Lafleur back in the day. Well, what a treat to play with a guy like that. You know, doing what he did best, which was, you know, obviously go like crazy and make things happen every time he was on the ice. And the Big Bird Robinson, good friend and great person back on the blue line that just was outstanding in so many ways. And even though Chelios and I got along like oil and water, and I refused to play with him as a partner, I put Chelios in there as a guy that can make things happen and do a good job. And Patrick Waugh and a guy named Brian Hayward. I always think back, Casey. He was a good goalie that used to step in there. And I remember back in the playoffs, just before the playoffs were started, everybody or all goalies had to have their pads had to get measured. And Brian Hayward and O'Neill used to come in and get the measuring tape out, and Hayward knew that he was coming in, and he would pack them so they'd fit in the dimensions that were allowed at the NHL rules. And soon as O'Neill would leave the room, Hayward would go and get a rubber mallet and pound those leather pads to, expand on their width. So that's stuff that probably I shouldn't have revealed. But anyways, a great treat to be part of just a few of those names that were just enjoyable to be on the ice with, and have a great run of doing more winning than losing. And you talk about pride in a jersey. Those guys, they cared to have that CH on the front, and they played like it.
Hey, Rick, if you take away the hockey playing ability, who were your one or two favorite teammates back then, just as guys?
Well, we had Robinson and I used to room together playoff time, so we still maintained a pretty good friendship afterwards. And I have to talk about Knuckles Nyland. I won't get into some of the stories that we went through, but I took him home on a few occasions. But he was a solid guy that you talk about heart in the right place. Like so many of them, just one big group that just did whatever they had to do to make the difference between winning and losing. Just very, very appreciative of that opportunity.
I'll just say for mine, Patrick Watt in goal, Larry Robinson, Chelios. I'll throw Guy Lafleur. He was still really good in the 80s. Stéphane Richer, the last 50-goal scorer on the team in the Montreal Canadiens history, and Mats Naslund as my starting lineup. I think that could do okay.
Mats Naslund still the last Habs player to finish in the top 10 in NHL scoring.
Last with 100 points,
1986.
That just goes to
and
show
you know what?
That's pretty crazy.
The petite Viking that they used to call him, at his size. And I remember going into the Boston Garden with all of those cuckoo birds that wanted just to pound your brains out. And this little Swedish player did not care for a second who was going to come and try and knock him through to the other side of the street. And he showed up and he delivered. And he was a soft-spoken guy, but man, oh man, was he a player.
The Boston Cuckoo Birds, that might stick, Eric.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about the Boston Cuckoo Birds is they used to throw beers on us in the bench, and I could get a couple good sips on occasion when I was thirsty. So,
did you have to encounter Mike Milbury at all? Did he throw any shoes at you?
I'm sorry, Julian.
Did Mike Milbury have to throw any shoes at you? He was a broom. Remember that?
Mike Milbury was too preoccupied with Chris Nyland beating him up.
No, I know Pat Burns used to always wear his oldest, worst suits when they played in Boston Garden because he knew he was going to get beer poured all over him.
For the Canadiens fans, we had to get some Bruin slander in. We had to end this year on a good note somehow, right? Thanks so much for tuning into all of our episodes throughout the year 2021. We will be back in 2022 with brand new episodes, and we'll try to make sense of whatever's left of this Montreal Canadiens season as it is. Let us know in the comments section who would be in your starting lineup of 1980s-based Montreal Canadiens players. HockeyInsideOut.com is the website to go to if you want to see full episodes. You could also check out the YouTube page. And if you're going to hang out here, you might as well subscribe to the page as well. We're trying to up the follower count. So check us out in 2022. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.